Hey everyone, happy 2021. Let me just double check. Yep, all our AV stuff should be working. Um, so before we get back into anything with the untapped data warehouse, well, actually, I haven't even checked the job since I got back. Um, yeah, it looks like we're still getting data flowing through just fine. So yeah, so before we hop back into that, which I obviously do want to wrap up that project, get the Power BI done, all that stuff. I thought it might be fun. I've been granted access to SQL Analytics. So this is very much in beta. Not that I don't have high expectations. Anytime I use something from Databricks, but just for what it's worth. This software is still definitely in a beta state, and I wouldn't be using it on any projects in production or anything until it gets out of this preview phase. But I did want to go ahead and walk through sort of what the interface looks like and try and maybe set up some basic stuff like maybe a SQL endpoint or some dashboards. So the way you get in there, and I think that this is going to be a new, relatively common UI for Databricks, is there's that little honeycomb in the bottom left that I clicked on, and that's it. It seems like that's where they're going to have different apps. So in the future, as different components of Databricks launch, that's where I expect them to get stored. So keep an eye out on that. So the first thing that we're going to want to do here is just walk through these let's get started steps. So I'm going to go ahead and configure this Metastore. And so this is where you can set up your data access configuration. So let's walk through also in the settings here. So we can get some basic stuff like what our date format is going to be. I tend to like year, month, day, with the slashes. I guess that's not available yet. So we'll, I guess, go with this. So the reason I like the year, month, day is with the hierarchical data format on the Azure Data Lake Gen 2. That just works well for having sort of a natural file-based partition. But oh well, here's where you can add data sources, set up alerts, like if you wanted it to go to Slack or a webhook or whatever, this is where you can do it. We can create new query snippets, personal access tokens. It does look like they bring over your personal access tokens from what they're calling the Databricks workspace. Now, that makes sense because it is still the same REST API on the back end. And then finally, some account information. So in order to configure the Metastore, I think that would be if you're like using an external Hive database, like if we hop back in here, like if you already have a Hive Metastore set up. We do not. So I'm going to go ahead and just let this sit for now. So then next, our option is to create our first SQL endpoint. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is how users would connect to our Databricks SQL Analytics. So this is how you get the actual table. So we'll just call this test, as goes with tradition. We want a really small one. You can see there's plenty of SKUs here going all the way up to 528 DBUs. We're going to take the smallest. We are going to do auto stop. Let's do it after 30 minutes. I don't think we can't even turn on load balancing or Photon yet. Those are also in private preview. will keep me as an admin. You can manage who else in your organization or your workspace would be able to have what level of privileges from here. So let's go ahead and create that. And so while this spins up, one of the things to keep in mind is what this is different, or what this is used for that's different from just say like the access points that we've been using, for instance, in Power BI. This is sort of intended to be for end users or like analysts. So, you don't necessarily want to have to provision a personal access token every time and go through the steps of like extracting the HTTP endpoint for a certain cluster. So this would give, a range of users who want to consume the data that you've curated in your data lakehouse, an easier way to get to that data without having to go through all that more advanced configuration. So if you recall from a couple weeks ago, we did dive into this documentation a little bit. So that's probably where we'll go next. I am going to make sure that we have some users provisioned. Like I should already be provisioned. And you can see that I am. And so if you wanted to add another user, say set up a group, like I might go ahead and set up a group called Untapped Viewers. And I believe this does pull in from Databricks as well. So I'll go ahead and disable cluster creation, give them access to SQL Analytics, but not the workspace, for instance. And so if I wanted to, I could add anyone that is a member of my Databricks workspace. So for instance, me. I'm already an admin, so I don't want to do that. But so again, to add people to a workspace, you would just go over to this IAM and go ahead and add some role assignments here. So that's what's going on with groups. If we walk back up to users, so I can invite arbitrarily as well anyone from an Azure Active Directory tenant in addition to that IAM access. So any email that's in your AAD, you could go ahead and add here. And then once they're in here, this admin console is shared between, let me go ahead and open up a tab for the workspace. Oh, it looks like this actually dumped us back to the workspace. So this tab is shared between the two. So the admin console you get to from the Databricks workspace, it doesn't look like there's an equivalent. Like normally you can drop down here and go to admin console. It doesn't look like there's an equivalent yet in the SQL Analytics workspace. So that kind of makes sense. So if you went back to the portal, or sorry, how do I get, yeah, I guess there's no shortcut. You just go over here. So if I go to settings, yeah. So that kind of makes sense. So you provision access to SQL Analytics from inside the normal workspace. Okay, so now that we have, yeah, this is still starting. So now that we have some users, let's go ahead and look at workspace storage settings. Pretty standard stuff, just a way to clean out the cache. There's an equivalent here in Databricks as well. If we go to workspace storage, yeah, same settings. And we can purge revisions too. Oh, these are the same tabs, so of course they're going to be the same. Okay, let's stop digging through that since we know it's the same now. So then the next thing that we can do if we go over into dashboards while we wait on our endpoint We can't create a query yet. And since we don't have a query, we can't create a dashboard. So we're kind of stuck on that. Let's see. Another thing I noticed, if we go back over into settings, so if we look, there's actually no, there's SQL Server, MySQL, etc. There's no way to ingest ADLS Gen 2, which I found kind of odd. So I'm going to go through Databricks instead, and we can use the JDBC ODBC driver, and I think that's the way to set up our lakehouse. I honestly haven't gotten a chance to read the documentation yet, but that's what made sense to me when I was first skimming this. I guess I should clarify. When I say I haven't gotten a chance to read it, I haven't gotten a chance to read it thoroughly. So we don't want that. We want... I don't think it needs to be running. There it is. Okay, so we want to have, okay, and that did get launched. Okay, so we can copy our host. In our HTTP path. And then we'll go ahead and create a new token. Okay, so let's test this. This is the same way we set up Power BI, so it should work. Interesting, okay. So we'd still use, it looks like, the native Power BI connector, and we would set it up the same way. I think what this accomplishes is not having a cluster up all the time. At least that's the way it initially appears to me. There's not a huge differentiator right now. Okay, interesting. I haven't messed around with that, the SSO, so credentials, interesting. I'll have to keep that in mind as I or if I share any of these reports out. Okay. Where were we? Did it tell us if this worked or not? I'm going to try and turn on, there's a do not disturb, right? There we go. Trying to get better about using the actual productivity features of Windows to be more productive. We'll see how that goes. Okay, I guess I have to stare at this and wait. An unknown error occurred. Oh, I bet I know. Gotta wait for the cluster to spin up. Okay. So while that spins up, I'm gonna blow my nose real quick. Exciting stuff. So that worked out nicely. I got a call at the same time. Let's see if this thing is ready to go yet. Success. Okay, so the cluster needs to be warm. Okay. Save. Okay. Okay, so that's saved. So now let's try some queries. So this is loading up our lakehouse. Come on. It's interesting. I might, who knows, I might be setting this up wrong. We'll see. No, there we go. So this external data source, so from toasts. It's going a little slow. Let's walk over back to Databricks, the Databricks workspace. Yeah, and we can see this job running. That's cool. We can see our test job ran. Okay. Very interesting. Okay. So then let's do something real quick. Like let's select okay, so let's do select star instead. Interesting. Yeah, there's some good stuff in here. Yeah, that one doesn't really make any sense. But we could do. I think it was the capitalization that was messing with us. Oh, we need default dot. That's what I want. Is this table actually empty? It's been a long day. Come on. I think what we want anyway is, yeah, the check-in comment. Because I don't think we ever actually imported comments. There we go. There we go. So if I added a visualization, because I wanted to play around with, what I wanted to play around with was the word cloud. Interesting. Not a lot going on there. So we could effectively create, yeah, I want to lose my changes. We could effectively create a little dashboard of these query visuals, right? So like we can add, like KPIs, and I guess it does support Markdown, so we can do. So I don't think my query got saved. Let's see if we go over to view query. Yeah, it did not. We could do. I guess we'd have to put in our own count column. I was going to do a count of frequency, but let's just do something easy. We probably need to include some filters for stop words if we're going to do this. But the point is we can save this, go back over to dashboards, crack this open, and then under our edit, let's see. Yeah, we can grab our word cloud. We could also add our table and have those results. Yeah. Yeah, and then once we're done editing, so we can share this out, like all of our, let's say, untapped viewers, we can make it so that they can run it. How do I X out of this? There we go. And we could have it automatically refresh. I don't think, yeah, there's not a way to embed or anything yet. We could add a tag. Oh, that's great. I'll deal with that later. Yeah, and you can have all these sort of ad hoc dashboards. And so the whole idea is that you can do this all through SQL. You don't need to know, Spark. Like I was able to curate all the data that we were querying in Spark, but it sort of decouples the two. Here, 1 second. My cats broke something and I don't want them to cut their little paws. This might be setting a record for most interrupted stream. So we can add query, or we can add users. We can even add tags, an old description. So all this can be curated. We can also fork. So this is the equivalent of like our clone functionality over in the workspace. There's no refresh schedule set up. Now that's interesting. Let's play around with this, where So let's go to new query because that's where we're adding the parameter. So let's change this to be I want to edit the visualization. I want to edit. Okay, there we go. Edit source. So we want to select distinct style. See if that works. There's some fiddly parts of this query language, so I want to include a group by. See if this works. Yeah, okay, and then we want to order by. Okay. So then we'll save this. And then when we go over to this, we instead want this. Okay. This is so weird. See if we can redo this. I'll query to load drop-down values from this. But that's not the results of that at all. That's interesting. Maybe I need to close it first. We could try this. Let's see. Oh, I think I see the problem. It's not that. It needs to be this. Go. Let's do this. And we'll just grab a string verbatim. Okay, so now let's add our parameter back. So it is injecting single quotes, but I think it's picking the ABV instead, it appears. So it seems like visualizations, or sorry, the parameters inside visualizations is something that I need to read a little bit more about to make sure that we're implementing it right. Because it seems like it's just not working. And we can't really see the query. Let's save this like this. Okay, and then over in this query, we can try this. We can pull it from here. It's interesting. Okay, I think that gives us enough to get started. I'm going to go ahead and stop the endpoint in the cluster, and then I'll call it a stream there. Next time we'll dig into some of the alerts and maybe try converting the untapped Power BI over to using the SQL endpoint instead. And we'll also talk a little bit more about